Hey guys, it's Rich with your Monday spot on the Pagan Perspective, and this week we're talking about not being committed to a group. This week's question comes from, I'm not going to butcher their name, I'm just going to put it right here, who writes, I've been having a lot of issues the past 2 years in the pagan community. I don't have kids, and as a pagan woman, my issues seem to be invalidated. I've recently broken ties with my coven / hearth / circle. I was not able to have say in scheduling rituals, events, meetups, or dinner. My coven members could choose the excuse of a soccer game, a sick husband, a husband who doesn't like paganism, sick kids, or school play as an excuse to miss rituals. If I had to work, though, I was considered not focused on the group or selfish, or not concerned with the welfare of other people. I risked being fired from my job multiple times and was still ultimately kicked out of our group for not being committed enough. Now I'm too nervous to join other groups. Have any other women in the past experienced this with pagan groups? And if so, how did you overcome that and still be able to work equally with other pagan women, moms, or no? Okay, I can't really speak on behalf of women because I, for one, am not a woman and do not identify as a woman, so I'm probably not the best one to give advice on this one, but I can give you my perspective from a masculine standpoint, and not only that, since I haven't worked in a coven or a group or anything like that, on a regular basis. I did have one group ritual where I worked with the group, but it wasn't really a big ritual. It wasn't something that I regularly did. So I can't really speak from a group setting, but I can give you my perspective from somebody who's in the military as a single male, who has seen this go on with the married folk or with those who have dependents in the military. It is very much a two-edged sword. There is a lot of discrimination towards somebody who might be single. And it's not only women. It happens to men too. So I do want to say that in the military, if you are single, there are a lot of things that you kind of feel like you're getting pooped on, especially as a single person. As a single person, I don't get the extra pay for dependents because I have no dependents. Married people not only get that extra pay, they also get extra days off in certain shops. It's not an Air Force policy or anything like that, but some married folks get days off depending on when their anniversary is. They get days off depending on when their kids' birthdays are, stuff like that, family events. People tend to give those individuals days off so they can spend time with their family, which I don't necessarily agree with, because here I am as a single male, and I don't get any extra days off or any extra pay because of my status as a single male, and it just isn't fair. Somebody that is married having extra time off whenever we both do and are paid for the same exact job. So I don't necessarily agree with that, and that's something that I have spoken out about at work. I have drawn attention to it that, hey, you being married, you get a lot more money than I do. Or you being married, you're getting a lot more time off to do what you need to do with your children and with your spouse. So where's my extra time off? You kind of poo-poo on me even taking a day off for my birthday, which is something that the commander usually gives as a day pass. So you can coordinate having a day off of work, so you have that extra day, to compensate for your birthday. Mine happens to be on December 25th, where everybody's off, usually. So I get a birthday pass and I'll use it sometime in January. So for me, I don't really like the fact that these people are getting 2 days off a year rather than me getting one if I'm lucky, as compensation time. Now, this could seem like squabbling, but that's only scratching the surface. There are people who get preferential treatment depending on their situation, on what shift they work. They get preferential treatment on what time they get to come to work. If they're on a day shift, they may get to come in late to work because they have to drop their children off. They may get to go home early because they have to pick their children up. They may have to, or they may come in late because their wife needs to use the only car that they have available. There's plenty of different situations that have come up in my time in the military that it just doesn't seem fair whenever certain people are getting preferential treatment because of their marital status or because they have children. Doesn't seem fair. So I can kind of relate where you're coming from a male aspect, from a single person's aspect. I can definitely relate to you that it is not fair whenever people sit there and say, well, I have to do this and I have to do that. Therefore, everybody else needs to conform to what I need them to do. Whereas everybody else is like, okay, and they don't want to cause ripples, so they just step back and let it happen. And then you have the single person, whenever something comes up or we're not able to do something that, hey, I kind of need this time off because, or I can't really attend this because I have work. And then everybody gets angry because why not? And in those situations, people have to understand that this is definitely a two-way street, that just because you're not married doesn't mean you don't have other commitments in your life. For me, I've told people before that, hey, I'm not going to, this person's going away. 1, because I don't want to. 2, because I have other plans. And they're like, well, what other plans do you have? I don't have to justify those. Just know I have other plans. I think in this situation, what I'm kind of like beating around the metaphorical bush here is whenever you have those situations of, hey, I won't be able to go to this ritual, or I won't be able to attend this because of work. It is not because I don't want to be there. It is because I can't be there because I have other commitments. And if you don't want to go to something with somebody, especially as a single person who seems to have no other commitments, knowing that your no is a complete sentence is more than enough. I can't tell you how much your no is more than enough whenever it comes to not wanting to do something. And having that empowerment of no. It doesn't mean that you're not committed to something. It just means that you do not feel that you can do that and and you can be there in that moment in that way that is needed to be there. So I hope I'm putting my thoughts out there in a coherent way. As for working with a group, if you are in a group setting, in a coven or a circle meetup type of situation, if you are in one of those settings and you're the only single person and they tell you, hey, we're not taking that idea, we're not taking that excuse, something like that, I would totally be okay saying, if you are not going to respect who I am and the fact that I have other commitments that do not revolve around your schedule, then I must depart. And that is more than okay. It is okay for you to walk away from a situation where you do not find yourself being respected. And that's what it really comes down to for me in a situation like this, is if you don't respect me, I don't have to take it, especially with a situation where you can just walk away. Now, I will say this is coming from somebody who has not been in a coven or a circle, a grove, or anything like that, so it might be more difficult for certain people to walk away from those situations, where for me, I've been solitary for so long, it's okay for me to just be working by myself, to not have somebody else to work with me. So for me, I'd be totally okay with that. Now, you say that you're nervous about joining another group because of what has happened in the past. Here's what I would suggest for in the future if you join another group. This is coming from a male aspect, an earth type aspect, and just somebody who likes to be organized, or at least as efficient as possible, even though I'm not always that efficient. If you have a scheduled time of work, if you keep to a certain schedule at work, say you always work the night shift or you always work a day shift schedule, and you know what your hours are and the days of week that you are constantly working, whenever you join your next group, I would print that off. Or at very least, if it does change, print it off weekly and tell them, here's my schedule for next week at work, or here's the schedule that I usually keep for work. So then they know, hey, this person will not be able to join us on Wednesday at 8 p.m. because they are working. Or this person is able to make it this day and this day, but have other commitments other days of the week. If you have any other types of groups or organizations that you volunteer at or work with in general, such as like a Rotary Club or a charity of some sort, if you work with any of those types of things on a regular basis and you already have a schedule for that stuff, then I would suggest saying, hey, here's my schedule for when I work with the Salvation Army, whenever I work with Toys for Tots or something like that. Here's what my work schedule is with them. I do Relay for Life. Here's my schedule for when those meetings are. So you have it ahead of time, and we're not squabbling over whether or not I can attend a stated meeting type of situation within the Coven. So for me, that would probably be the easiest and best way to nip everything in the bud early on so you don't have this happen again and again. Keeping that in mind, it doesn't mean that everybody will like that you don't always have the chance to be at a meeting or at a gathering. They may not like that you're not attending circle, but at least you put your foot down early on and you said, these are my commitments. This is what I'm keeping to, and you are not going to schedule me to be guilty of something that I cannot attend because I've already told you in the future, this is what my commitments are. So if you have something like that, you've stood your ground, you've drawn your line, you've said this is where I stand and I'm not budging because it's already set in stone for everything else. Now, keep in mind whenever you have those types of situations, and hey, surprise, the organization that you volunteer at or work has given you the day off, those types of situations, whenever they say, oh, hey, guess what? We don't need you to volunteer today, or that meeting's been canceled, or work says, hey, guess what, you get a day off. Then you can take that day off and you can show up in there and they'll be sitting there like, oh, I thought you couldn't make it, but thank you for joining us. You've drawn your line in the sand. You've told them that you wouldn't be able to attend barring anything out of the ordinary, but something out of the ordinary happened and you were able to attend. So I hope that has helped with answering your question. Again, I'm sorry that I had to come from this as a male, as a single male. So I can only kind of maybe 1/3 identify with what you're going through, being a single male that has not been in a coven. So I hope I've answered your question. I hope you find the group that will give you what you need to further on be your best self, and understands that other people have other commitments. Just because they are not married or that they do not have children, that they don't have other things going on in their life. I hope you find a group that understands that single people have commitments too. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Until next time, I believe next week we have subs, and I will see you the week after that. Until then, may you have love, hugs, and ladybugs. Bye-bye.